I'm Sarah Lewis, and I'm a professor in the School of Media Arts. And today, our guest for Conversations Art and Cinema is Tamara John. I'm so excited to have Tamara here to meet with us today. Tamara graduated ultimately SIU in 2012 after doing a bachelor's degree and then a master's degree. She's a television producer and has produced and helped develop shows for Netflix, including Love Is Blind, HBO Max, My Mom, Your Dad, and the 12 Dates of Christmas. These have amazing names. Bravo, The Real Housewives of Dubai, The Real Housewives of Dallas, Apple TV Plus, OWN, some of these I don't even know, WE Lifetime TV, ROKU and Chibi, or Quibi. Her
Quibi,
most
Quibi.
Quibi.
Quibi. It's, it's,
Well,
it's a long gone thing.
it's a long gone. It's you've been around. So I'm just gonna alongside her most recent project is a new series called Side Hustlers with Hello Sunshine and ROKU that follows female entrepreneurship. Tamara tells diverse stories and creates content that uplifts and inspires viewers globally. And she did amazing work in our program too, I have to say. She graduated from the program with a master's in professional media and media management. And the last thing I was going to say is you're currently working in development. And I'll just start with a couple of questions, and then I just really invite all of you to jump in, and then I have questions in reserve if if we feel like the conversation's lagging. Thank you for coming again, Tamara, and welcome back to
Thank
SIU.
you. Thank you. I really need to take a trip, like a physical trip back to Carbondale at some point. I'm like, "Ah, I haven't been in so long."
Let us know when you want to do it, and
Mhm.
we could arrange for you to do a workshop with us
Oh my
or
gosh,
something
I
like
love
that.
that.
Really make it. We'll make it. We can maybe make a tiny little program, like just throw it together.
Yeah, let me know. I would be happy to do it.
So I wanted that would be really awesome. So okay, we'll nudge you.
Okay.
So I kind of, since I haven't seen you in so long, I kind of wanted to know just how did you get started once you left here? Like, what was the first step?
So the first step, I was like, I for sure was like, I want to work in TV, but I wasn't sure necessarily what avenue. When I was in grad school, I did work and co-created that series. I don't know if it's still on, but it's that art series. There's a talk show series with WSIU um, called Expression. So from that experience, I was like, I love producing. It was so fun. Like I got to do so much and be so creatively involved that I was like, this is what I want to do, but I didn't necessarily know how to do it. And then right when I graduated, I actually moved to Dallas, which is not the place that you expect anybody wanting to work in TV to move to. But my family was moving there at the time. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go there and figure it out. So as you would expect, there was like nothing really happening in Dallas. So I was like, what do I do? But I was like, I know I'm going to work in TV. So I was like, literally, it probably took me a solid year before I started actually working in TV. But in that year, I became like uh probably a stalker. Like it was like every single production company I could find in Dallas, I researched them. And then, oh, this view is so weird now, Sarah, because it's just my
What,
face.
you don't like it because you see
Well,
yourself
unless
today?
yeah, it's so weird. It's like I'm
Okay, I'll undo it.
um but unless you guys prefer that view. Do you guys prefer that view?
I undid it.
Okay. So I did that. I literally called around nonstop to all the production companies, applied to like every job you could think of. At that point, I didn't know what freelancing was, so I wasn't even thinking about that. I was just looking for like a job at a production company, which there were a couple in Dallas. And then after like that extensive search, I had like applied to a job that I saw. Actually, it wasn't even posted anywhere. There was at the time a production company, and I had called them because I was at this point I was calling around. So I called them and had asked, and just happened to speak with like one of the producers there, and she was like, "Yeah, we actually do have a job for an associate producer available." So like I submitted a cover letter. I then called back to see if they got it, and make sure like that was it. And then I ended up ultimately getting the job, and it was a AP an associate producer job for a country music series that essentially followed country music artists around that were like Texas based and like Nashville and whatnot. So it was literally like a docu series following their lives. So then I guess after that, I stayed on with that company for a year. I worked on 2 seasons with them, and then they had an abrupt um, layoff. So essentially, the whole team got laid off, which wasn't many of us. It was like 3 producers. Um, the whole team got laid off because the company just went under. So then I didn't know what to do afterwards. And then I remember my boss for the country music show would always say like, "Oh, I used to freelance," and I was like, "But what is that?" Like I didn't know what it was. I was like, "But how do you get into it? Like, what does that mean? I don't know." So then I went back to the drawing board. And I was really actually annoyed with myself because in the year prior to getting this AP job, I was like joined every organization tour. I joined Women in Film Dallas, and I would go to their events. I joined the Dallas Producers Association, and I ultimately found that none of these organizations actually did anything. At least it seemed to me. But I would join them, and I would still go to the events. Like they would do like breakfast events, and I would go to the breakfast, and like, but they were never doing anything. And I don't even think that people actually worked in TV. But so then after the layoff happened and I didn't know what to do, then I was like, I need to figure out like what is freelancing. And then I saw like a post for ABC had this show at the time called Extreme Weight Loss. And I saw that they were looking for people to sit in the audience. So then I I asked my dad to come with me to sit in the audience because my plan was that I would go and like try to talk to whoever did the show and see like how I could get involved, if like I could help somehow. So then I did that, and I ended up talking to the production coordinator, and she was like, actually we had somebody like quit on us, and we actually do need some help for our shoot tomorrow in some far place. It was like an hour drive or something. And she was like, I can't actually pay you, but she was like, if you want to just get just like want to come and just get some set experience. So I was like, yeah, I'll definitely do it. So I drove there to wherever this place was it was my first experience like on like a real, like I would say a real reality docu type set, because the other show I did was different. It was a very lean team. So it was like me as an AP sometimes going out with a camera person. So it was not like a real reality set. So it was my first time on a set, and the girl that had brought me on, she was like really sweet, and she was like, I feel so bad that we can't pay you, but she literally gave me like there's like a whole thing with like walkies on set. And I don't know if are you guys familiar with like being on set and like walkies and like how that whole thing works. If you're not, there's like a whole system that you actually need to know that shows if you're kind of green or not. And green as in have no experience is what everybody calls you. So like people may not call you, but they talk about you like that. And like, or they would, you know what I mean? So like she literally, like I had never, because like I said, the show that I had worked on, we didn't have, I don't know how we were doing this, you guys, but we were on like country music concerts with no walkies. It was actually quite, now I think about it, it was not good. But it was like a whole system, like a whole specific language with walkies and like certain channels and what you have to say to communicate to people on the walkie and to get things across. And she taught me exactly what, like she showed me how to like put the walkie on, showed me like what the language was, and like kind of just like I helped with like releases or like running errands and stuff, which I was very happy to do. And the next day, like I helped like drop off their footage to like FedEx or something. But it was like I was just appreciative of it. And she was like, if I ever get the opportunity, I'm definitely gonna hire you for a show where I can pay you. And she actually did. Like it was like I think the next year she actually called me for a show where she could actually pay me for it. But I used that then because at that point I just needed anything to put on my resume that said like I had like real show experience. So I put that on my resume as like a production assistant. And honestly, that's what got me like started my journey in freelancing. So it was a free job, like a job that I did for free that paid off immensely. So what did I do after that? I think I just ended up any little job I could find, like any PA job that was posted, because I had a very different, like I didn't like, typically people go from like being a production assistant, then an associate producer, and then so forth. But because when I finished school and because I already had producing experience from WSIU, I went straight into working as an associate producer. So I'd actually never worked as a PA. So therefore going and like working as a PA was good, because then I learned like just like basic set etiquette, like just like even like how people speak to PAs sometimes, which I was like, whenever I'm in a position, I'm never gonna speak to people this way, or like maybe like, or like good ways that you should speak to people. So just like learning like the basics. So I was actually really happy then to have that PA experience. And then at that point, I was like, I was still in Dallas, so any job I could find, I was applying. Like I drove down to Houston sometimes, and I would like stay at my aunt's house to work on shows for like a week, like anywhere I could find a job that I could actually stay. I wasn't just going to be homeless or anything, but like, like anywhere it was mainly Houston that I would go over there and like spend a week, work on a show, work as a story assistant, basically taking notes on something. Or there was like some shows that passed through Dallas. So like I applied to those. So it helped to actually start building my resume. And then there's a website, which I'll tell you guys about this website, which you may know about it already, but if not, you should definitely sign up for it. And I learned about this website through working on these different sets as a PA. And I signed up for it when I saw that they had a job coming to Dallas looking for an associate producer. So I applied to the job, and then the co-EP, the co-executive producer, actually hired me as a segment producer, which I didn't even know what that was at the time. But the specific website is called staffmeup.com. Are you guys familiar with that? Have you heard of it? No? So definitely check it out. It's called staffmeup.com. And it can be hit or miss. But it essentially got me my first job as a full-on producer. And it was a show that at the time they were like, we don't know what the show is going to be. It was a show for Bravo, but then it ended up becoming like, we were filming it because they thought it was going to be like a Ladies of Dallas, like similar to their Ladies of London. But it ended up being the first season of the Real Housewives of Dallas. So that's how I got my first segue
Wow.
into it.
Is that the first Real Housewives was in Dallas?
No, there's been like, then it was like New York and
Move
like all
around
places,
and
Atlanta.
yeah.
Yeah. That was
Did
the
you
first like Texas one. Or actually only Texas one, I should say. Hmm.
It's interesting to, like, just hear how resourceful you had to be. I mean, I'm just really in admiration of how hard you worked and how that was, like, to make phone calls, like, sometimes people don't even like to make
You
phone
don't. I mean,
calls because
you
they
really
don't
have to
pick up.
like,
Oh,
I think for me, it was kind of like I just felt so like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So like even if I hear no, you're going to hear a lot of no's. Like it just happens. It's just I hear a lot of no's now. You just hear a lot of no's. But like I just felt like this is what I really want to do, and I happen to not be in the best state for it. Really.
you were saying that, and this is the last question I'm gonna ask, I'm gonna hopefully turn it over to you all. You
Mhm.
were saying that there were some things that you wish you had known before you left school that you still could have done while you were at school. Do you remember what some of those things are?
Yeah. So for sure, I feel like I did a good job, I think, with like doing things like remember the awful project I did with you, Sarah. So I had when I was in I did this. Remember when I was that I wanted to, I really so I'm from Trinidad originally, and I really wanted to do a project that would it was like an independent study I did with Sarah. So Sarah was actually my first mentor. So and she was a professor for this class, which is really just me, an independent study. And it was a project. I was like, I want to do a documentary on Trinidad. And I didn't even know, and I actually didn't plan it well. And I got excused from my classes. I don't even know how I convinced people to do this, but I got excused from my classes for 2 weeks. And then remember the department gave me equipment for 2 weeks too to go to Trinidad. So I went to Trinidad, shot a bunch of stuff, and really had no plan. And really, the project never got done because it was not. And then Sarah was like, I think you need to do some some research and stuff. So it was a really perfect example of what not to do when you're doing a project. Like you really actually do need to do some research, but it's a learning step. Um, and so I think doing those kind of things where it's like if it's a project that you want to do, like obviously do it a little better than mine was, but like do like your own projects. I think that's something that you should definitely do. So that way you have like some work when you leave and like you could say like you've done some experience. But I would say like that website that I said, staffmeup.com, you should all create, if you haven't already, create a profile on Staff Me Up and like make a LinkedIn if you haven't already, and really like start like even if it's like I don't know. Do any of you guys have you guys had any experience yet on any sets?
Well,
Okay.
you can also introduce yourselves when you want to ask questions. Just say
Oh
your
yeah. Oh
name.
my gosh. Should we just? Maybe we should do an introduction first.
Rushing on, yeah, that'd be really
Yeah,
nice.
maybe we should.
So,
Want to start, Dorcas, since you're at the top of my screen at least.
Hi, good to see you again.
You.
Yeah, so I'm currently a first year MFA in media arts. So I'm just doing my
Oh,
master's right now and working in cinema primarily.
nice. Very cool.
I'll go next. Hello. Thank you for being here. My name is Dejanae Robinson. I'm on my last semester of my MFA in creative writing, but I take cinema classes because I enjoy it so much.
Oh, that's really awesome.
Ashish.
Oh yeah, hi, welcome. Nice seeing you. I'm Ashish from India. I'm a documentary filmmaker, editor, activist. I'm in my second year of MFA.
Very cool. A lot of MFA students. Very nice. I kind of wish I did an MFA, but that's all right.
You're on your way. You're making art. We'll ask you about that. Lauren.
Hi, thank you for being here. My name is Lauren. I graduated with my MFA. I am a mom of three, but I'm
Awesome.
still I'm a filmmaker, and so I appreciate hearing that you graduated in 2012. I started SIU in 2011, I think, but
Uh-huh.
graduated with my MFA in 2019 and
Nice.
had a very small experience on set when they still had the internship in LA. And
Oh,
so a
okay.
lot of what you're saying about how people treated you and stuff, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be like that. But yeah, it's also really empowering to hear you not give up, and I appreciate that. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
Dimmick. Or maybe he can't. Do you have a mic, or if it's a bad time, it's okay. You don't have to. Joseph, you want to say something?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm still a student at SIU, currently a cinema major right now.
Cool. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you. Just join in, hear some insights and stuff.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, Joseph. Dimmick, did you get your mic going? That's all. Well, it's all right. We'll Piruz, you want to say hi?
Hi, Tamara. It's so nice to be here with you.
Likewise.
I actually did Staff Me Up when it was called a realitystaff.com.
Oh, crazy.
That's what the website was originally. And then it became Staff Me Up. But yeah, it's been around since maybe 2004. So
Oh, crazy.
2003. Yeah.
Wow.
Have you had any success finding any jobs on it?
Yeah, I did. I found many jobs on it.
Oh,
So
nice.
I did Look What I Did for Home and Garden and Craft Lab for the DIY Network, Strictly Sex with Dr. Drew Pinsky, Rachel Ray,
Oh,
Barbecue with Bobby Flay.
oh,
Lots
good.
of
Okay.
different shows. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Hello, my name's Demick. Sorry.
Hi.
Um, I am like least qualified person here. I'm, I'm just a senior here, about to graduate with my degree in cinematography.
Nice. Congratulations.
I've worked with Cruz on a couple of his short films, so that's all of my official set experience. Outside of that, I do some films with the ROKU.
Nice. Well, nice to meet everybody officially.
Thank you. Do other people have questions they'd like to ask? I'm gonna go back to my reserve list later.
Yeah, I had just like a question about Dallas. I think I asked you maybe the first time I met you about like the Texas area. Do you
Mhm.
think that it's like changing now? Because I last time I heard it seems like more production was happening in Dallas, or yeah, I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
Uh, there are some things happening, I think. I don't necessarily know. I've been in LA the last 6 years, and I'm in Dallas now. I don't know if it's a permanent move at all, but Dallas is it seems like ad heavy, like agency and like commercial work type of thing. If like you're wanting to do that, like that might be a really great thing for you. I do know that like Dr. Phil's show is about to start filming here, so that's going to be in Fort Worth. So like that is a potential thing, but overall, I personally haven't had a lot of uh outside of like PA work, like at a higher producing level, not particularly. But that could always change because a show could decide to come here and then it's here for a while, you know? So it just depends.
Okay. And
Mhm.
so if not the Texas area, outside of the like LA, New York area, are there any other areas that you'd like recommend? I know like Atlanta as well
For
has
sure,
changed
Atlanta.
that.
Atlanta is the place. Like if you don't particularly want to be in New York or LA, because Atlanta just has so much production. I remember when I first moved to LA, people actually thought I lived in Atlanta because I was in Atlanta so much for work. So like I haven't, because I was like, oh, I want to spend time in LA. So I kind of spoke it out there that I didn't want to really be in Atlanta anymore. So now I haven't worked there in years. But um I have a lot of production friends and like producer friends that live in Atlanta and they love it. And I have a lot of friends that have moved from Dallas to Atlanta because there are so many opportunities. And then you not only have, I work in unscripted, but there's a huge scripted and like film community there too. So like it definitely gives you some options.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I have a question. So, uh, are you still have close-knit SIU alum? Like, have you been able to find others and like work together with them from SIU, or not really? And any like, I feel like Hollywood is anywhere now is like my perspective, but maybe I'm like not thinking correctly. But I was just curious, like, how easy it is for you now to also just go from job to job, if it's fairly easy and smooth, or if you still find challenges. And then also the SIU alum question.
So starting with the SIU alum question, I don't know. I don't particularly look for SIU alum because I just feel like it's so few and far between. But I had done a lot of shows with one company, and one show um, one of the executive producers at the time was actually an SIU alum, or was she SIU? Yeah, she was an SIU alum. Her name is gosh, what is her name? Jen Metz or McClure Metz or something like that. And she is now like an exec at a production company. But she and I connected because she actually wanted me to work on the show but I wasn't available at the time. But we've connected. So like I think sometime last year or the year before, we got together and had lunch, and she mentioned that there was a man. I can't remember what his name is. I'd have to go look. But he runs like a Facebook group for SIU alum that are in, and an email listserv, SIU alums that are in LA. And I think periodically he does like certain events. So I actually haven't gone to any of the events. Sounds bad, but I actually haven't gone to any of the events. But there's that, you know. So there are people. It's very rare. Like I'd be very happy if I ran into another SIU person outside of like, or just in like normal work life, that aren't already like existing friends from SIU. And then what was the other question? How do I find work now? Was it?
Yeah, like, is it pretty easy? So I'm a mom of 3 and I've always been intimidated to go to a big city and navigate it. But I was just curious how hard it is for you to like go from one job to the next job. I'm sure like now you probably have it easier than you did when you first started, but is it still challenging, or how often are you able just to like navigate from one thing to the next?
Each year is very different. Like some years I'm like working back to back to back, and even sometimes there's a little overlap in the shows, and I'm just like, oh, like it's typically I would probably do like 3 to 4 shows a year, because, and then also take some time off, because you, after a show, you need some recovery typically. But I would say that it's, most of the jobs I get now are not jobs that I applied to. They're jobs that, like, because I've built a network of like, and you know, like there's certain people that you enjoy working with, and like then because you guys have similar work ethics, then it's like you actually bond and like you become friends and things like that. So like if I work with someone, like I had a friend that said this, like, and I believe I am also the same way. Like if I can't respect your work ethics in the work environment, like I'm not even friends with you in real life. So like, because you make everybody, you spend so much time together on a set that you really make everybody's life harder when you're not doing a good job. But I would say it's relatively easy. Like right now in the business, it's extremely slow. So like there's another group on Facebook called like Women Working in Reality TV, and like seeing like a lot of people have haven't worked in like all last year, or even like months and months and months. So it just depends. It's very, right now there are a lot of mergers happening. A lot of companies have not been buying at the same pace that they have, and there's a huge there's a lot of competition for just viewership, because it's different from like when I was in college and like it was like cable and like Netflix was now ish becoming a thing. Now there's so much competition for viewership. There's so many streamers. There's so many, like there's the channels and all the channels with their respective apps. So it's just, it's a little slower right now, but I don't say that to discourage you at all, because I try not to get discouraged, and I try not to stress, because sometimes like even like right now I'm technically off of work for a couple months, but I'm using this time now to like work on some of my own personal projects, because then you need this time as well for recovery, and then to like also work on your own stuff if that's what you desire, you know?
Yes, thank you. I'd love it. I'd love to see your personal projects when you have them done. If you want to share them with us, that'd be really cool.
I would too, girl. They'll be at some point. Yes, I would love to.
Do you want to talk about them? This is like a dream project, or like how is that? You know, moving back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I'm still in the development state. So basically I've always wanted to also do, like I work on other people's shows, and it's great because I learn a lot, and it's like, especially depending on if it's like a large, like just to get experience, you know, and like each show that you do is so different. But I've always wanted to kind of start developing my own content. So I've decided that I was going to take a break essentially from LA for a bit to kind of just focus on like some stuff that I wanted to do. So I wanted to start a production company basically. So I did that towards the end of last year. So I'm still working on building that up, and like, you know, basic stuff like website, logo, things like that. But my goal with it is to run all the work that I do as a freelance producer through that like my company, do any consulting work I do through that company, and then also have that as like the production company for the shows that I'm developing. So the show that's kind of like taking up most of my focus right now is this. As I mentioned, I was born in Trinidad, so it's a series which is my first. So it was, I don't know what the attempt was when I was working with Sarah that I mentioned before, but this is essentially a music docu-series that I'm working on developing. So I'm figuring out how to do this, because really you're just figuring it out as you go, which is what I'm doing now. Like, because it's different, even though like I've worked on so many first season shows, it's different when like each show requires something different. And it's different when you're doing, like I've worked on a lot of shows where it's already greenlit. There's already obviously a production company, and it already has a network attached to it. But when you're developing something that is from your small production company that nobody knows, but also is not yet attached to a network. So right now I'm in that phase of like figuring out what's the best route to take with this, and also like develop it, like what is the show,
Thank you for that. I have a question. I actually have two questions. I'll leave with the first. So my own path has been a little rocky.
Mhm.
I'm from California originally before I came out here to Illinois, and I thought I was going to be a journalist. I became the first African American journalist at my university, and it wasn't for me. And then I realized,
What university was it?
Humboldt State University, now known as Cal Poly Humboldt, which is like 5 hours from Oakland, San Francisco.
Wow.
Yeah, it took 90 years for it to happen, but it happened. It hasn't
Wow.
happened since me. So that's a
Mhm.
thing. Small
Mhm.
town. But it just didn't happen for me. Journalism just didn't happen for me. I didn't have that passion as I do for telling my own stories.
Mhm.
So now I'm telling my own stories, and now I'm taking those stories and adapting them into screenplays, and then directing them, and et cetera, et cetera. So
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, if you can go back in time, would you change your path?
I would actually say no. I wouldn't, because I at one point, when I was making a transition from working as because I ended up, so remember I got that job at what was it, Real Housewives of Dallas, as a segment producer. And the thing is that when you're really, I guess, good at something, people like to keep you in that position. So like they want to hire you, which is first is like, oh great, I'm getting all these jobs. I don't even have to apply for it. And like people are just calling me, and then like, so it was great. But then I was like, I don't only want to do this, like because it's very logistical, which I like, but I'm like, I also want to work in story. So then for a while, when I was trying to make that transition, which was really hard for me at a point, and I had to ultimately start turning down jobs or offers I got as a segment producer in order to do story jobs. And I felt like, oh, I wish I would have not spent so many years working as a segment producer, and like I wish I would have transitioned early. And I was looking at it as such a negative thing. And then I realized that, first of all, I had to shift my thinking on it, because while I was looking at it as a negative, like, oh, I wish I would have had all this like other story experience, like, and more, whatever, I don't know what I thought I needed. But it turned out now, when I'm in the position that I'm in, that I'm like, honestly, working so many years in the segment department, and like has actually made me such a great producer in the story realm, because I'm able to understand um just the set and like departments and things in a very different way. And it taught me a lot about negotiation that I hadn't known, because essentially you're having to like negotiate on behalf of the production for like free stuff all the time. So like it ended up being like such a positive. It taught me how to manage teams, and like to be like all these things, that I then was like, I really, it only reframing my thinking allowed me to like realize that actually it was really I was looking at it as a setback, but it was really a setup, because it really helped me to be more successful in my positions to this day. So I think that for your experiences, like I would look at it all as like something that is, because like we don't know why it happens, or like why you might have, whatever things that has happened. Like I would look at it as like, what are the positives in it? Because I'm sure like you had to go down that path for a reason, even though you don't understand it. And then you'll understand at some point, like maybe you'll have an epiphany and be like, oh, this is why, like, now I understand this, like, from having this experience and like fighting as the first Black journalist in this small town. Now I know how to understand such and such and such. So, like, let's say if you're working with Ava DuVernay, then it's like you have this experience now that you could share that really makes you stand out and give you this like really unique perspective that nobody else has. You know?
You're right. You're right. Thank you. I gotta, like you said, reframe my own thinking, and
You do.
because
You
it's a wealth of knowledge, whether I know when I'm gonna use it or not.
I remember I had joined this there's this other organization in LA that I had went to some of their networking stuff, and the lady that started the organization at the time was a like a production head at this big company. So I had like set up, I was like forcing myself to go and like talk to people and do coffees. So I went to go have a meeting with her just to like get, in my mind I was just going to find out about her journey, like what was your journey like, getting to into production. But then, so that's all I had really prepared to go to this meeting. And then when I got there, she was asking me all this stuff about me. And I hadn't prepared for it because I was like, just going in like with kind of like, I was just going to hear her story and like kind of, and at the time is when I was trying to transition out of segment producing. And I was still looking at all of my experiences negative. And she was like, honestly, she's like, you're really, and I previously before that, I had always considered myself to be very confident. And she was like, I'm not getting confidence from you. She's like, I feel like you're not, like, I feel like you like, she's like, you have all this experience, but she was like, I feel like you're not, like, she basically read me for filth. And I was like, I went home and cried because I was like, oh my God, like it was like a real good wake up call, because I was like, wow, I don't know when I became this person, but like I was looking at everything so negatively that was really the start of me.
What did you say? She read you for what? What did you say?
Read me for filth. So basically, like, she told me about myself that I hadn't realized, that like I was coming across really like with the lack of confidence, and like I guess even how I spoke and like how I was presenting, like even some of the experiences weren't from a positive place. It was more like, well, I'm trying to do this, and like, or I think, like just not well. And it ended up being a really good meeting in that sense, even though I went home and cried, because I was able to realize that I needed to shift my thinking.
Thank you for that. Which leads me into my next question. Are you comfortable or open to collaboration in any capacity, or what capacity, if you are?
I think it's always open to collaboration. Right now, it's a little, because I think I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing right now with this unique space that I am in life, which I feel like we're always in that space. But I think I'm always open to like even talking through, like, or like if there's ideas that you have, like whatever it is, what do you mean by collaboration, I guess is the question.
Oh, really, in any capacity, like whether it be like mentorship or like sharing one's work with you, working on your projects,
Oh my
internships,
God, yeah.
anything.
Like I right now I personally don't have any internships, but I am always happy to help, because we don't know what we don't know. And then also I've personally have had a lot of mentors throughout my career, and I still do, and like have more mentors to come. So if there's any time that I can assist or give advice or what have you, or you have questions about something, because this is a very unique space to navigate, um, let me know. And I could share my email with you guys too. I could put it in this thing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So I just want to have a few questions, like one or two. So what do you feel like working in a proper production, or how is this much better, or working for a big companies like Netflix? Like, because Netflix gives the shows to the production houses, right? How do you see that, like, Netflix does its own production, but also shares their own other production for different shows. How do you think the dynamics works working for a big production house or working for a small production house?
So I haven't, even though I've produced shows for Netflix, I haven't like worked for Netflix proper. So like any of the shows that I work on, it's like with the production company. So I'm hired by the production company to produce whatever show. So like typically, like let's say, what's a good example? It depends, because typically shows might come like sometimes like Netflix might reach out to a production company that they might have a really good relationship with and say, oh, they're really wanting X type of show. Like the network could do that, or the production company goes like they have a show that they've developed and then they're now shopping that around to different networks for the network to pick it up. And like certain, like if typically, like, let's say true crime is really popular now and people love true crime. So like if you're developing a true crime show, you're not going to bring that necessarily to like a WeTV, because WeTV, their lineup is very different. So like you would bring that, like if you're a production company, you'd bring that to like maybe a Netflix, depending, an investigation discovery, or something that definitely is that type of genre, you know? So going back to your question, I typically am like hired by the production company. And then it's different because in pre-production, like they bring me in like for pre-production, essentially, where you're kind of, the show is like been greenlit, but typically like the show still needs to be flushed out. And like, you still need to like, sometimes it's still in casting, so you don't even know who the cast is yet. Sometimes the cast has already been established. Sometimes the whole show has already been kind of like flushed out, but a lot of times it's like you still need to figure out what the episodes are going to be. So like in pre-pro, like depending on where it's shot, like in LA, like let's say I worked on the first season of Love is Blind. So like for that show, I was in LA, and our production company is an LA based company. So we started, the producers for that season, some of our producing team was LA based, me included. So in that series, we start off pre-pro in our LA office. So it's so in the office, they have like a bunch of shows. So this production company is a pretty big one. So they might have like 5 other shows in production at the same time, right? So you're just like have your little hub. So like you go into the office and like you have your area that's like, this is the Love is Blind producers, this is the Married at First Sight producers, this is the blah blah blah. Like it's like that. Like everybody has their little like bullpen area. So like then from there, once it's time to start production, because that show we shot in Atlanta, then we all went to Atlanta, and there's a whole group of producers from Atlanta that we were also working with, just like, you know, like remotely and like Zooms and stuff. Actually, Zoom wasn't a thing then, whatever it was we were using. But like we would then have like, you're in Atlanta, and then there you have a production office in that state or that city or wherever, and then that's your main hub. And then it's just like it's almost like an extension office of the production company, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got
Does that
it.
answer your question?
Yeah. Because I worked back in India with a lot of production companies, but I was a freelancer. Once the show is done, we have to look for other.
Yeah, and there's so much production coming out of India too. What part of India were you?
I'm from South, but I worked in Mumbai. I was in
nice.
Bollywood also.
Oh, that's nice. I worked on there was a little while that I had moved back to Chicagoland, and I worked on a Bollywood-ish pilot. So it was a cool experience.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, no problem. I think you muted, Sarah. Okay.
This is what you'll do, like as you're working through your project, and but you didn't say what it is yet, but you don't have to if you don't want to.
So I didn't hear the first part of what you
As
said.
you're working through the project that you're working on, your own personal project, I don't know if you wanted to say what it was or not.
So so essentially it's I don't know yet if it's going to be. Initially I was like, it's going to be a docuseries, but now I'm like, because I've had a couple of pitch meetings so far, and I'm just this debate, and like I'm still figuring out like what it's going to be, because it's a very niche. It's a music that started in Trinidad and Tobago called soca music. So essentially it's a docuseries where I want to follow the some of the key players in like artists, players as an artist in the industry. So like I'm still figuring out, like right now I'm doing like still working on getting the people that I think I would want to cast on board, but like talking to them because I don't know these people personally. So like talking to them and like meeting them and like yesterday I had a call, a Zoom with, so essentially I'm like really in the development phase where I'm like chatting with them, meeting them, finding out about their life, their journey, what they have going on, their goals, what could potentially be story, if they're even interesting enough to follow as like primary people. And then like that's kind of like helping me to like narrow down what I think, who, like, because I think I'll probably follow, but because I'm thinking of like budget because it involves travel and stuff, that like I would probably be able to follow probably 3 to 5 people realistically, as opposed to when I first started out, I was thinking, oh, I'm gonna follow like 8 people, which and they're all in, some of them are in different countries, and it's like that doesn't actually make sense budgetarily. So that's what I'm kind of figuring out, like, what is this show? Really, what is this show? And like, how am I putting it together? And like, am I going to try to do a route where I develop it and then like traditionally putting together a pitch deck, which I have, and then a sizzle, and then talking to a production company and seeing, or a network, and seeing if they're interested, and then if it's greenlit, then basically then you get your funding from the production company or like the network to do it. Or if I'm going to go another route where I'm essentially having to find investors myself and basically do everything myself, then produce it all and go through like the post, everything, and then look for a distribution partner.
Oh, wow.
So learning this business stuff of the business, you know?
That's great. I'm so glad you're doing it though. This isn't so far away from what you were looking at back then.
I
You
know
you
it's
were
connected.
following
That was my
musicians.
warm up. That was my warm up for for my practice round, you know?
But I think it's interesting just to be thinking about how music changes as it moves around between places, and as populations are
Hmm.
are forced to move, and in fact in some cases, and have new encounters. So good luck with that.
Thank
um I really hope you have great luck with it. Does anyone have, it's like getting close to the hour, does anyone have any other questions? Not I
I just have a quick comment. I agree with you, Sarah. I love that it made a full circle, right? Like you didn't have the focus of what you wanted to do, but you knew deep down you wanted to do it, and now you're
you.
doing it. And I think that's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I also agree, and I love the whole reframing. That was also my experience in Los Angeles and working on sets for
Mhm,
myself. That you sort of get that from working on all those reality sets, working
mhm,
on those film sets. You got to have that, you know, you got to figure out the problem. You got to have that creative solution. And I'm
mhm.
so glad that you got it. You were able to share it with all of our students. I'm so grateful for you and for you to share your time with all of them and with us today. And I'll be so happy to see your show. I'll be
be
right there
dancing.
watching it. Thank you so
I'll be
much.
dancing. I
At
want
least
to
I'll
go to.
definitely have a couple viewers. I'm kidding.
I want to be an extra. Just.
We'll figure out what we can do.
I
Thank
I
you,
have
Peruse. I
one
really
more. Oh,
appreciate it.
sorry.
Oh no, just saying thank you to Peruse.
Oh, yeah, that was so beautiful, Pirus. Thank you. Um, I was just curious about how it is to work in reality, and if there's a stigma about it, and if you kind of fell into, you said you wanted to do it, and so
I
I'm
did.
kind of interested in hearing about the pleasures of it, I guess, and maybe the
Mhm.
pitfalls.
Yeah. So the like if there's a stigma, it's typically from anybody who feels like they didn't want to work in reality and now they're like in reality. And so like which is not my story. Like some people are like, oh, I just wish I wasn't scripted, so then it's like they're settling for reality. But me, like I was very intentional, like when I decided to come to SIU, I wanted to do like more docu type stuff. And then I remember sitting down with whoever was the cinematography person. And then I was like, no, I think I really want to do the TV program because I really wanted to do more like unscripted stuff. So like I've always wanted to work in unscripted, and I really do like it. I mean, I'm not opposed to working in scripted, and honestly, there are more benefits on the scripted side. So like I would say there's some of the challenges on the unscripted side is that there is no union. So like as a producer, like there is the Producers Guild, but which you can join as an unscripted producer still, but there is no union. So the hours we work, like, I mean, when you look at it, you're like, oh, that's a great rate, but really you're working crazy hours, and like the expectation is crazy. So it's like you really kind of have to really enjoy what you're doing, because then it's like, is it even going to make sense? Which I've had friends that have worked in it, and like they've taken any type of show, because sometimes people get really stressed when there's like a lull in work, or they're scared to not which naturally not scared to not get another job in a while, and like because everybody has bills and stuff to pay. So like sometimes people just take any type of job just to keep working, which then ultimately leads to burnout too. So like I think it's important to like I personally don't feel that same level of like burnout, because I'm very specific with the type of shows that I do, because from before I started working in unscripted, and even from my SIU days, I remember a class that I had taken, I think in my master's program, it was like talking about producing with integrity. And I was like, this is the type of producer I want to be. So I kind of like set it up from the beginning, the type of producer that I want to be. And I feel like you naturally gravitate towards people that align with the type of style that you have. So like, I mean, there's been shows that have slipped in there that I hated, that I've worked on and didn't enjoy, mainly like one, but like overall, like, I feel like my experience working in unscripted has been a really good experience, because especially when I work on shows that are like fun, or like I'm able to travel to a new country, or I learned stuff like this last one that I did that's going to be premiering in March. Actually, they just released a trailer for it yesterday. Is a series about with one of my favorite executive producers. She has hired me on 3 shows now, and she's really awesome. And she's the type of producer that produces, like, she's just a good person. So she and I vibe really well. And like she works hard, but like you work hard, but you also have to enjoy yourself. And I would say that, yeah, I guess finding your type of vibe of people, but also knowing that you're going to be working hard. Like if you're producing, your day is going to be a 12-hour day minimum. Like that's just how it starts off. So then as a producer, which I think is very unfair, but you as a producer, there's all these expectations for some reason for you to like really go above and beyond. So like even though it's like 12 hours for crew, and if the crew goes over like 12 hours and they get meal penalty, or they get overtime or something, producers don't get that because they give you a flat rate. So therefore, like you really end up like camera people make way more money than producers like they do, and they have a union that supports them. But at the end of the day, like you end up you're working a lot of hours. Like I've had days where, and you only sounds bad now saying it, but like just so you know, if you ever go unscripted, what to expect. Or like so, but
Yes.
you work, like you have maybe one day off of the week, and then but even on those days off, if you're working with cast, they don't respect your day off. They're calling you still, and they're like, as far as they, because then you ask so many things of them. So it's like whatever day is supposed to be your day off, you still having to plan, because then it's like ultimately it seems like the whole show rests on your shoulder, because if you don't have your locations, if you don't have the cast schedules, if you don't have all these things in order, then you don't have a shoot week. So then it ends up being, or like now I'm in a position where I manage a lot of producing teams. So making sure that all that stuff is done. And I do try to be very mindful so that producers do get a day off, even though sometimes it's like we're all like glutton for punishment. It's because it's like if you're enjoying what you're doing, somehow it's like fun. So like I was talking to one of one of my producing friends today actually. And I was we were because we were like we worked together on this last show, the one about female entrepreneurship, and we were like, I think we're glutton for punishments because you're working these excessive hours, like, but then you are having fun. Like, so it's like, even though like I could be like, which I've done, like I had a period where I worked with Kmart Corporate in their like advertising agency for a little bit. And it was really boring. And I was like a normal 9 to 5. And I was like, oh, I could do this when I'm 90. Like I just felt like it was so boring. So it's almost like even though you have more of a life, it's like there's a certain level of like, I think it's an instant gratification, especially with unscripted, because things turn around so quickly typically. So it's like you're doing pre-pro, you develop the show, then you're full on production and things change every second. So you're always on your toes and you always have to change and be willing and ready to make a decision. And then you're done and you're like, oh, you're coming up for air. But then like, you're like, we're happy to rest. But then you're like, okay, I can do it again. Like it's a very strange thing when you're doing shows you like, I would say. If you're doing shows you don't like, then it's not so fun. I'll
Awesome.
send you the trailer here. I'll look for it.
Oh, great.
send it to
So
you.
much knowledge. Thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Thank you. Did you want me to send this link in the chain?
That would be lovely. And I'll send it back around if anybody had to leave.
Let me see if I can find that. One second.
Here.
Tamara, did you know if there was any possibility for the students to get involved with internships or to do PA work, and how they would be able to go about that, whether it be through you on an upcoming production, or could you hold spots for them if that was possible?
I would say it's sometimes that's a little harder to do. I would say that trying to think what might be the best route. Like the last show I did, like it was with this company called Hello Sunshine, and we it was interesting because it was my first time where we like had the production company producing, like their development team had an intern, and then they brought her over to our producing team, and they were like, hey, we have a intern for you guys if you guys would need help with anything. And it actually turned out to be a great experience. But I think a lot of times the internships are through the production company, like a larger one. But if there is an opportunity, even like I know I'm still building my company, if there's ever an opportunity with any of my projects to hire anyone, I definitely do, because like I'm in the position where I'm hiring my own producing teams typically. So yeah, if there's ever an opportunity, for sure. Or like PA work, PA could be a little hit or miss because I don't typically, unless it's like a story PA.
Well, maybe it could even, and I'm not, there's no pressure here, but
Yeah, no
just
problem.
thinking about helping the students and also helping you at the same time. But maybe it's something like someone helping you do research and just being able to glean off your experience, and maybe it's not something that's a paid thing, but just helping you in whatever capacity as the productions company is coming into being. I think that would be a huge benefit to whatever student is about to graduate, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I'm definitely, it's definitely a discussion. If anybody is interested, I always feel bad to not pay people, even though I did unpaid internships, but I'm not in a position yet to pay anybody. But yeah, I think if there is, because
But I also feel that that's equal exchange. That in this case, because you like Sarah said, are so knowledgeable and have so much wonderful experience, that it is a payment. It's incredible stuff. And
that's true. And then you could put on your resume that you've helped with,
exactly.
development. or like, you know, as an assistant. So that definitely, yeah, if anybody's interested, let me know. And we could see. And if I also see any programs, because sometimes I see programs, but then I don't know anybody that's in the age range for for them. So if there's ever, yeah, definitely let me know. And I'll also, Sarah, next time I see something, I'll send it to you as well. So
Great.
therefore you might be able to send it to some of the students.
Great.
This is the link I sent you guys, the Instagram link to the trailer for the show.
Oh, wonderful. So I'll send that around, and then I'll stay in touch, and we'll figure out what's the next time you're going to be in this neck of the woods. Like,
Yes, I'm long overdue for a visit to Carbondale.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you. It'd be amazing.
Yes, thank you all so much for your time as well. It was so nice chatting with you.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara.
Yes,
You're
thank you.
amazing. Thank you so much.